Top 5 Best Lens for Nikon Camera. Number 5. Tamron SP 70-200mm f2.8 to VC USD G2. Best for shooting, wildlife, pets, portraits, landscapes, weddings. The trusty 70-200mm lens is a staple in every professional photographer's bag. It offers a hugely versatile focal range that can cover everything from portraits, candid wedding shots, wildlife, and distant landscapes. In addition, the wide f2.8 maximum aperture gives it great low-light potential, not to mention the selective focus when used in wildlife and wedding photography. Of course, these lenses are fairly bulky and heavy, but they are optically excellent and useful in every photography situation. Up until recently, the Canon and Nikon versions of the 70-200mm f2.8 were market leaders due to their supreme quality, but recently Tamron have upped their game. The newest iteration, their Tamron SP 70-200mm f2.8 to VC USD G2, is the best quality 70-200mm that money can buy. It beats out the Canon and Nikon equivalents across the board and is close to half the price of them. There really is no reason not to buy the Tamron over any of its competitors. Coming in number 4. Nikon AFS Nikkor 14-24mm f2.8 G ed. Best for shooting, landscapes, architecture, and astrophotography. This is about as good as it gets for landscape photographers. The Nikon 14-24mm f2.8 G offers a super wide-angle view on full-frame cameras and a still acceptably wide perspective on cropped sensors. Simply put, it's one of the best lenses for landscape photography around. As far as image quality goes, it's the market leader in wide-angle zoom lenses, offering excellent sharpness throughout the frame and across almost all apertures. In addition, the wide maximum aperture of f2.8 makes this an ideal astrophotography lens as well. In fact, it's the best astrophotography zoom lens around, only bettered by the super wide-angle primes that were built almost specifically with astrophotography in mind. We go as far to recommend it in our Ultimate Guide to Landscape Photography ebook and our best lenses for astrophotography. As you would expect from such a high-end lens, it comes with some extra features, such as the extra low dispersion glass and the silent wave motor autofocus system. It's also weather sealed and constructed as professionally as any lens on the market. It really is a work of art. But that work of art does come with the price tag to match. It costs a fair chunk of change, but if you're serious about your wide-angle photography, it's a purchase you won't regret. Coming in number 3. Sigma 105mm f2.8 XDGOS HSM Macro. Best for shooting, macro photography. True macro capability is one of the things that separates more serious camera systems apart from the consumer packages, and for that you need a dedicated macro lens. If you're interested in shooting the world according to ants, the Sigma 105mm f2.8 is one of the best macro lenses out there. It comes in at a very respectable price and offers 1:1 magnification ratio. This is true macro, fantastic image quality, and a host of technical features to make your life easier. This includes image stabilization for those lower shutter speeds and a silent autofocus motor to avoid scaring off any small animals you may be photographing. I'd recommend every photographer trying out macro photography, as it opens up a whole new appreciation for things like depth of field, distractions, and composition. This is a great place to start as well, with the Sigma 105mm f2.8 insert jumble of letters here being at an affordable price point but offering a ton of high-end features and excellent image quality. What's more, if you decide macro photography isn't for you, you're still left with a beautiful lens for portrait and woodland photography. Coming in number 2. Tamron 18-200mm f3.5 to 6.3 di2 VC. Best for shooting, travel photography. Super zoom lenses get a bad rap from professional photographers, and some will actually be offended by me recommending it here. True, their optical performance isn't as good as a monster like the Tamron 70-200mm f2.8 mentioned below, but they do offer unique benefits of their own. The biggest pros of these super zoom lenses is the sheer convenience of them and the amount of time you can save when using them. There are countless times when I've been out with family and wanted to change lenses to get a distant shot, but haven't had time because we were on the move. That doesn't matter with these, as we can capture anything from a wide-angle view to a distant mountain with such a huge focal range. The Tamron 18-200mm takes the top spot in super zoom simply because of its price. It comes in at substantially cheaper than its nearest rival but in no way inferior. Not only that, but it weighs just 400 grams and isn't as inconspicuous as a top-of-the-range telephoto lens. At such a low price, I'd recommend getting one of these just for family days out and holidays. Sure, opt for the high-end gear when you're out and about by yourself and able to take your time, but throw this in the bag on holidays and you won't regret it. It saves having to lug around 15 kilograms of camera equipment every time you leave the house too. Coming in number 1. Nikon AFS Nikkor 50mm f1.8G. I recommend a cheap, fast prime lens to every beginner photographer I meet, and this is one of the best of the bunch. The nifty 50 used to be sold as an all-rounder lens with old film SLRs due to them being easy and cheap to manufacture. Of course, nowadays Nikon and most other manufacturers have opted for the convenience of an 18-55mm zoom, but the 50mm lens remains a staple in every professional's camera bag. In fact, we love it so much that we've dedicated an entire article to the famous nifty 50 lens here. A 50mm is also a perfect option when assembling the perfect travel photography setup. This one is the perfect blend of affordability and quality. It comes in at less than the cost of most below par zooms, and because the camera makers have been perfecting the 50mm focal length for so long, the quality is almost unmatchable. In fact, this bargain lens outperforms legendary and expensive lenses such as the Nikon 14-24mm f2.8G ED and the Nikon 70-200mm f2.8G ED VR2 across the board in technical specifications, and both of those lenses cost over $4,000. If you're a beginner to photography, you might be wondering why exactly you should give up the convenience of a zoom lens. It's a fair question, but once you mount a prime lens to your camera body, you soon become acquainted. The sharpness of these is leagues ahead of any zoom lenses in the same price bracket, and the lightning-fast f1.8 maximum aperture of this means it's a beast in low-light situations. On a DX camera body, this becomes a beautiful focal length for portraits and street photography, and can even be used for landscapes and woodland photography. An absolute must for every photographer,